So welcome everybody to another episode of the Brewmasters.Club cast. Here is what you have to look forward to in tonight's episode.
Rice holes.
Rice balls. I believe it was rice balls.
Rice balls.
Can I just label this first installment Roberts on love for head? Something like that?
Oh, no.
All right, so we're getting that crowd back
With the way you introduced those Roberts, I mean, again, winning more fans. They showed in the same picture I showed you guys. What
of your bunghole.
Of the bunghole in the beer. Thank you, Donnie.
Can't help it over here that Ryan's bung was in the red zone, and that, I mean, quite literally, I've had to bite my tongue for several minutes now. I feel like this is a victory, and so I shall drink that.
How many Roberts out of 5 Roberts? How many would you get it? 5 being the greatest amount of Roberts, 1 being a very poor amount of Roberts. How many Roberts?
Kind of a letdown. I was expecting more thickness.
Most Roberts are. That's what ladies always say when those Roberts are brought in. They were expecting more thickness. Oh, it's a Roberts with a long hammer. You don't see that every day.
I love Red Hook.
So you don't have to worry about this one not getting girthy enough because it's got the reach.
Because we are cheap, we are delicious, and we are always consistent.
That's really what you want to look for in Roberts.
Well, the best Roberts are. Oh, that's great.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
And you're fired.
That previous transmission was, it would probably be good for them to come.
Shove it up your bung.
Shove up your bung. Yes. Hashtag shove up your bung. Shove up your bung. I love it. Hashtag shove up your bung.
The bung too far. That's what happened.
Ow, gross,
right.
dude.
That's okay. We're in the same boat.
We know.
Those are images I can never get rid of.
I give that saying 5 out of 5 Roberts. I'm just saying.
All the stoners out there are going,
do not crush my dreams because
Yeah, they're getting ready. Like, okay, yeah, we'll drop it for you there. Just kidding.
Yeah. We own our own company. We can make anything we want to, you son of a bitch.
I mean,
I get
Disney.
that.
I don't know who you think Disney is, but Disney has their hands full of their own shit. They can throw their own shit at you till the cows come fucking home. And you will watch it, you goddamn Richard. You will watch it. They're just motorboating each other, just hoping for a ratings bump.
Wait till Monday, you turd.
Yeah, you're really killing the buzz on this one.
You don't look through the pinhole. You'll blind yourself. Don't do that. You're supposed to use it reverse-wise, like you look away from the solar eclipse. That's what a pinhole does. You don't look through the pinhole, Ryan.
Donnie.
You will absolutely go blind. No, there's other people listening to this, Laos. We have to do this service here.
Don't look through the pinhole.
Let them dream.
Ryan,
No.
Look through whatever pinhole you ever wanted to, and you let us know how that works out, man.
No, we're gonna get emails that people are going blind. Don't mention us if you're talking to your doctor, your optometrist,
Or looking through a peephole in a cardboard box. Don't do that.
God, super not drunk I did. Like, I mean, just
So they're all
ripping the knob off.
all the characters from Star Wars are put into one house. And what would happen if all of them were put Sith,
But they are not
like,
affiliated
Jedi?
with that Jersey Shore.
Gotta be Sith versus Jedi, but they're all like,
But what if Sith and Jedi started hooking up with each other?
it's a trap.
that'd be the great. No, it's a trap, clearly.
Welcome to the official podcast of the Brewmasters.Club, craft brews and geek news. Sit back, pour yourself a pint, and let's get into it. Now here's the founder of the Brewmasters.Club,
craft beer
and your host,
fans.
Donnie
This is the official
Gallagher.
Brewmasters.Club podcast called Craft Brews and Geek News. My name is Donnie. Thank you for joining us this evening. I am joined today by 3, possibly 4, probably 4 additional kind young gentlemen that are full of knowledge and ready to talk about some beer and some geeky shit. First off, Mr. Roberts.
Brew Boy 813 coming in.
That's right. We have a Roberts on Roberts situation going on right. Not Roberts on Roberts. We have a Roberts Roberts situation going on right now. So it's a little hazy. But Ryan, good of you to join us this evening.
We just gained a ton of fans for the wrong reasons.
Hey, it's 2017, to each his own. The second Roberts in the podcast. Christian, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for joining, sir, yet again. This is the second time we've got Mr. Christian here with us this evening, and coming back with a triumphant return. How are you, Mr. Dane?
Outstanding. Glad to be back.
Fantastic. Of course, you didn't go anywhere at all except for your fatherly duties, which you totally get. So don't worry about that. We have several, and by several, I mean many stories to talk about this evening. So we're going to hit the highlights. And luckily, a little snippet here, a little flash forward to the future. We got some news that literally broke last night, today, 3 hours, 4 hours ago. So there's some new news. There's some news that we wanted to talk about. We're going to see what we can get to. We've got less than an hour to do so. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Ryan, first off, please get into your weekend because I heard it was all hopped up.
It was totally hopped up. Started Saturday. As you guys know, I've been brewing off of 1 gallon kits, just making a building, doing 1 gallon brews. Finally got a burner, doing, up to 7 gallons now. And I've got a 6.5 gallon fermenter. So I spent all day Saturday buying and getting all the supplies. And I brewed till about 11 o'clock at night. Love to share that story at some point. But on Sunday, our good friend Tim over there at Craft Life allowed me to come out and brew with him and Mike, one of his buddies, and we brewed the Rye Tides, or excuse me, let me get this right, because he's a very much a stickler. Mike is very much a stickler on his names for beers. We brewed a Green Grass and Rye Tides IPA. It's after the name of a song from a good band that's growing a lot of popularity out in Land O'Lakes, and it was a rye IPA from the start, but I wanted to go over just sort of the day in general. So stop me if you guys have questions, because I kind of got a little bit that I wrote out. But, Craft Life, it's a very small brewery, but with a lot of heart and a lot of love. And, being a home brewer, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I won't lie, I had some doubts when I was walking in as to whether or not I knew enough or if I had enough of that vigor to brew with these guys. I mean, Tim's been brewing for 3 years. This other guy's been brewing since 2014 as well. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to keep pace. It's a much larger system. It's not huge, but it has a lot more pot connections for filling, whirlpooling, pumping, draining, and heating. And, more than I use on my 7 gallon pot anyway. But Tim and Mike, they were really excellent. They walked me through each step of the process. And honestly, once we got brewing, there was really no difference than what I do at home. It was all the same procedures, just a lot more gadgets and gizmos and
what size? What was the gallon they're
so I think we ended up filling the pot to about 35 gallons, somewhere in that ballpark.
So you brewed a 35 gallon batch?
But yeah, I mean, we steeped with about 35 gallons. I would say 72 pounds of grain overall. So
Krubs, how big of a batch is that? Like comparatively to a commercial brew, is that a test batch? I mean, is that small? Is that large?
So essentially, that's just over a barrel. A barrel is 31.5 gallons. So you're looking at just larger than 1 keg.
Okay. And is that kind of how he explained it to you, Ryan? Because he brews small batches, right? Like, and they brew them and then they serve them when they're gone. They're gone.
He does, but he's also got a new stainless steel fermenter that allows up to 2 barrels. So, it was to be expected, but at first it was almost too much grain. Like we literally had to lift. It's got a hook, comes in just like a commercial one would come in, and we had to lift it up just a little bit to let all the grains come through. And we really had to mix everything in. We had to paddle out. We were really mixing everything in, so to answer that question, getting back to my Sunday recap here, we really drank a lot. That was a keynote that I wrote down. It was pretty much, we got started and we drank as we steeped, and then we drank as we mashed out. And then we had a long interval of draining, the water from the grains, because the rye, which Roberts there, you probably know this as well. Rye grains can really cause a problem when you're steeping and when you're trying to drain everything out through the mash tun. Everything stuck. So as we pulled the mash tun out, it was such a slow drain. Normally he's like something's wrong, and Tim was just looking at it. He's like, something's wrong here, and as we were draining, it was just a slow drain. It was just a trickle down effect, like water just trying to come out, but not really. And that was all because the rye. It's such a different stick. He ended up saying that next time he does a rye beer, to use, I believe it was rice hull tablets. If that is that the right term?
Rice hulls, yeah. So
Right,
essentially,
rice
what rice
hulls.
hull is, it acts as a barrier and helps prevent collagens and like gelatin buildup in the malt. Yeah.
We didn't plan properly. At least at that point, he knew that was the right that should have been what we had done. And you said it's rice hulls, or how do you
Rice hulls.
Rice balls. I believe it was rice balls.
Rice
Rice
balls. Those Asian things they eat.
Rice balls. Makes sense.
That's great. But really, I mean, and honestly, through the whole process, we were all talking about beer. We were talking about life. We were really, I mean, the camaraderie was really great. Mike, the guy that was there, you might remember, Donnie, we actually had him on video from when we were at the Temple Terrace Brew Fest back a couple months ago. He was on video. We were all cheersing together because they also had a table. His brewery that he's trying to start up through his home was set up next to Tim. They had some of the longest lines there because they make some really good beer together. But yeah, so that was like tip number 10, using the rice hulls. But yeah, we drank a little bit more, and then we waited till we finally got everything out. We got as much of the water out as possible. When we tipped it over, we realized how much water we actually lost, or how much wort that we actually lost. It was just a mess there. But yeah, drank some more, got our boil up to 210, and then drank some more during the boil. I mean, but at this point, we started at 11. Now it was like 2 o'clock because it took that long to get everything out from steeping. But once the boil was over, we cooled it down to, decent temperature, transferred it over to the fermenter, and just continued to drink till about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we went and got some sushi. So
Nice.
couldn't really beat it.
So you said it's similar to what you did as a home brewer, but I mean, that's your first commercial brewing experience. Christian, like, do you remember your first time that you ever brewed commercially and how different it was from any of the homebrew stuff that you've done? I mean, is it just bigger and more expensive? I mean, what is it? Because there's got to be a huge difference there.
Oh man, so it's my first time brewing actually was on a production facility of a 30-barrel brew house. So
Oh wow.
much different from what I was used to in home brewing. Ryan Roberts actually had the best experience for a first brewing session commercially because it was small sessions are always the best because you get the drink. When you're brewing in big commercial settings, you don't really get the drink because it's so intense the whole time that you have to be very aware of, because there's a lot more, I guess, since you're dealing with larger volume, there's a lot more at stake. Exactly. So there's a lot more cost in the issue. So doing a 15 to 35 gallons brew session definitely makes it a lot easier to kind of transition into, and so it makes it a lot more fun as well. But like he said, there's not really a big difference. The steps that go into it is really all that changes. The bigger the process, the more the steps change. But
yeah,
the process is the same. It's just if you're milling your own grains, or like if you're doing multiple phase mashing. So are you doing a single temperature, or are you doing multiple temperatures for your mashing? And then everything pretty much beyond that point is identical.
Well, it's funny you mentioned about mashing, because that was one of the things that I, as a home brewer, have not particularly done. And the reason I haven't done it is because I didn't really understand the process behind it. And that was one of the things that Tim and Mike actually talked me through, was how you at the end of your steep and everything else, and before you're going to pull and extract the grains out, you raise the temperature back up to about 168, 170, or like you said, maybe different variations. And mashing out for about 10 minutes, it helps stop the sugar, the sugar conversion, which allows all of everything to come out more easily, or it should, not when you're using rye, but allows all the sugars to actually come out of the grain a little bit better and stay into the wort before the boil. Because if you have it at a cooler temperature, it's almost like syrupy in a way. You can lose a lot of sugars if you pull it out at a cooler temperature. Is that something along the lines?
That's actually 100%. That's actually a big issue with a lot of commercial breweries nowadays too. Is I've worked for facilities that do single temperature mashes, and I've worked for facilities that do multiple temperature mashes. The multiple temperature is what you're talking about, where you pitch your grain at a specific temperature, and you do a raise, and you let it rest, and you raise it again, and then you raise it right before you add it to transfer it to your lauter tun, which is where you filter out all of that. And so that is what you're saying is exactly true. Is it helps to allow more draw. So when you're actually transferring it from your lauter to your kettle, you actually don't waste any sugars. You don't waste any wort. So you're actually collecting as much as possible. So pretty much it just comes down to facilities now come down to two different divides. Is some facilities are using a single temperature mash-in process, which is cheaper and easier system to operate. And then the old way of doing it is using a multiple temperature. And so what Roberts is talking about is by using the multiple temperatures, you're really able to maximize the draw from the grain. So you collect the most and you end up saving the most money in the end. But it's just a matter of, do you want to take more time during the brew and maximize from the grain, or do you just want to really spend more money on the grain themselves before you start mashing in?
I vote spend more time on extracting the sugars from the grain, because if you've already got, at least in this case, we've already got 72 pounds in a huge kettle. I mean, I would want to get everything out of that, especially knowing now how the rye is and how sticky it is. You want to extract all of that because it's only going to make for more better fermentables.
Oh, absolutely. And that's
when you're fermenting.
It adds to more fermentables and also increases body in the beer too, because without having those temperature changes, you really are fluctuating and weakening the body of the beer and also the head retention. So, I mean, it affects the outcome of the beer drastically.
Quick little note about head retention, and then I also had one other thing that I learned through my whole experience between Saturday and Sunday. But one of Tim's pieces of advice for head retention was to actually throw in carapils to your grain bill, because that will help with head retention. So
yes, I agree with that, but you're also affecting color and flavor by adding carapils.
Then you'll just have to add extra grain. No. Yeah, please.
Can I just label this first installment Roberts on love for head, something like that?
Oh no!
All right, so we're getting that crowd back.
With the way you introduced those Roberts, I mean, again, winning more fans.
Absolutely.
Ryan, do you have anything else to wrap this up, just to get through, because we got to keep moving?
One last little thing. So again, I upgraded to the whole new larger system, and I got to tell you, it's fantastic. Two things that happen. Buy a bigger bung. the bung that was a little too small for my fermenter, that's now larger, fell straight through, even though I thought the hole was the same size. So I've currently got a 5-gallon batch.
More TP for your bunghole.
Pretty much.
If you had more TP for your bunghole, you'd probably be all right.
But when I did it, it was like 11 o'clock at night. I'm 6 beers deep. I'm sitting here. I'm trying to cool down the wort and everything else as fast as possible, because I want to pitch my yeast, and the bung falls through, and I'm like, oh fuck.
You couldn't find
polio.
You couldn't find your bunghole for a hole in the ground?
No, I couldn't. And I literally dropped I dropped to my knees.
Oh God.
I almost cried. I'm like, here I am, so excited all day long. Got my new burner, got my new pot, got all my grains, spent almost $180 that I actually had to spend on this whole upgrade. And I almost cried. I'm like, I ruined my beer. Like, how am I going to do this? So I quickly thought, and I sanitized some saran wrap, and layer after layer after layer, just did everything I could to just keep it covered, taped it all up, and I just left it on the counter. Well, turns out I didn't do that in vain, because as I talked to Tim about this the next day and showed him the same picture I showed you guys.
Of your bunghole.
Of the bunghole in the beer. Thank you, Donnie. You can actually wait a little while. It's probably not common practice in larger settings like what you're used to working on crops, but you can actually let your wort chill overnight if it's covered and it's cut off from air and everything else like that, to bring it down to room temperature. And that's what he did with this beer that we brewed. So he put it into the fermenter, pumped it out from the from everything from the pot, and then pumped it into the fermenter, and they let it sit for about 24 hours, and then they pitched the yeast the day after. So I was relieved to find out that that was possible, because every YouTube video that I've watched on brewing beer is like, you got to do wort chiller, you got to bring your, wort temperature down and all this other crap. Turns out you can actually wait a 24-hour period to let it cool down naturally. It's not going to affect your beer. You want to cool it down a little bit at first, but not like insanely down to 72 degrees. 'Cause I'm not gonna lie, I spent probably $50 on bags of ice in my whole, brewing thing, because I don't have a wort chiller. So I'm just over there, I'm spinning it around, trying to bring it down to 72 degrees. So that was the other big piece of advice that I learned, was let it sit for about 24 hours and it can come down naturally. Don't be impatient with brewing your beer. Now, Krabs, in a commercial setting, is that what they do, or do they try to bring it down as soon as possible?
The idea is the longer it sits, as you know, there's the red zone for temperature for bacterial infection for any substance. If it sits in that red zone for too long, bacteria can build without oxygen. That doesn't matter. So the idea behind brewing is you really want to bring it down as fast as possible and pitch as soon as possible to eliminate that potential contamination. In commercial brewing, we pitch almost immediately for the sake that we don't want to have a gap, just because the longer there is a gap period, the more potential risk there is.
And to which that makes perfect sense. If you have a commercial thing, or if you're working on a commercial wort chiller and everything like that. But I do know that Tim makes good beer, and this is how he does every single beer. He'll let it sit and let it cool down naturally. He'll bring the temperature down. But so I guess maybe it's preference, but also keeping in mind there's a thin red line between how long you should let it sit so it doesn't get contaminated, because it's not out in the air. Like, he puts it into the fermenter and all of that. So it's not got air coming in, and there's an airlock on it with a blow off valve and everything else. But so maybe that was the procedure there that I should have explained a little more. But yeah.
Speaking of thin red lines, there is a little color that was brought back to the conversation. Mr. Lausman, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. Just enjoying this conversation. Can't help it over here that Ryan's bung was in the red zone, and that, I mean, quite literally, I've had to bite my tongue for several minutes now.
It was in some jalapeno IPA. It was all up in that.
Not a spicy bunghole yet.
It was all up in that IPA.
Quite literally is all I could see and hear. But glad to be here. Sorry for the technical difficulty. I'm on board for the rest of this. Let's rip it. Continue, please.
Well, that's good, because we are
bunghole.
Yes, because we're roughly just under halfway through. So let's go. We have to run now.
Sorry, I had such a great weekend. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No, and it's very.
It sounds like there was a lot of gapping going on before I got on the podcast. So please do indulge the rest of us on what happened.
Oh Lord.
No, it was good. And Ryan, I think that's fantastic. Like I said, I was insanely jealous, because I think that it would be I would be remiss to be like, yeah, that's not a cool experience, because Tim is, first off, a cool guy. He brews some cool beers. Christian actually was there today. You were at Craft Life, and you had a couple of the beers. So let's get into
them today.
Let's get into that as we talk about what are you going to drink, what will you drink. We skipped over it just because I know that Ryan was positively bubbling over in his lauder tank there with the excitement to talk about his experience, which I wanted to hear too. And I was pressuring you to tell us that story, so thank you for explaining it. Thank Craft Life and Tim for having us out there and having you out there and being able to share that experience. So I think it's great. But boys, we come to that point in time. What are you drinking? What are you going to drink? Let me start, just because I want to finish up one. I just popped the keg with my my SYNEK system. So it's the mini kegerator that basically turns a growler into a kegerator. And it's sitting on my counter. It's attractive. It sits above my bar. It's a nice brushed gold color. It's a lovely machine, but it just poured out the last few ounces of what I have is the Three Daughters Brewing the Phantasmus, which is an all right beer. I really liked it at first because it's what was defined as a spicy IPA. And I believe I talked about it before on the cast now, but it's a nice little golden color for an IPA. It is a little spicy, as in it's got some jalapeno back there somewhere on the finish, because it's got about an 8.8% alcohol, which is great. It's American IPA style, but again, it's just got a little subtle pepper on the back note as you swallow it. So good beer. But I've had this beer now for probably 2 months.
Really?
Not 2 months, maybe a month and a half. And it's got, when I poured it, at least when I was drinking it before, good foam, good everything. I had my CO2 tank tapped in there. Yeah, I've had it since July 15th. And well, so it's been 1 month because it's August 14th now. Or 17th, something like that. Oh, whatever. It's been over a month. Pretty good though. It still came out pretty well and it kept perfect temperature. So love it. Good beer, very good tasting beer. Cheap price too for a 64 ounce, was like $12. Wasn't bad. I'd get it again. Speaking of Gallagher beers, Lausman, what do you got?
Oh boy. I went with a crowd favorite today. I went, this is partially due to a situational issue, but I had my alternator die at hilarious times. And so after on fixing my alternator on my car, I went and put a new one in at a parking lot, which anybody who has done that knows how difficult that is. Not very, but long story short, I got the Victory Golden Monkey because I felt like I had.
Well, I thought you were gonna go with an alt beer for a second there. It's really like.
Oh, I had to go with the Victory. Like I literally was sitting in a Wawa, just sitting in the freezer after sweating for like 9 hours, and just being like, you know what? I feel like this is a Victory, and so I shall drink that. So I know I've had that on the cast before, but delicious Golden Monkey, one of my favorite go-to brews in Animal Kingdom, in Walt Disney World. Apparently I can't open it right now, but wonderful.
You can change an alternator in the parking lot, but you can't open a beer.
Do not get me started on this. Well, me started on alternator problem.
Oh, wow. You had to say it twice. That's how cool that joke was.
Oh, boy. Looks like someone likes a lot of DC.
Ryan, what is your beer this evening that you're drinking?
And please keep it current.
It's pretty.
Oh, God. All right, stop.
I've got the Cigar City Brewing Cubano style espresso in my hands right now. It's a brown ale with vanilla, cocoa, and coffee beans added. It's a little lighter than I would have liked it. I was expecting, a little bit more, but I understand it's a brown. It's a little, thinner, but I feel like this should have just been a porter the whole way. Like, yeah, it's not as good as the Sumatra Brown from Founders. I'm trying to remember the exact make of that, but it's still pretty good. It's just not as heavy as I would have liked it to have been. And it's only 5.5%, which is not bad. It's very drinkable, but I don't know. I was happier about the can and the presence, and I was like, ooh, and I got my fingers on something nice, but it's still very good. Just not as thick as I would have liked. So yeah, I feel like my review on that.
I feel like we should have a rating system. Are you guys in on that? Like we should develop a rating system somehow.
Yeah,
I've already pitched this.
I don't know.
Already pitched this to the entire group.
I mean, I would give this a 3.5 only because I'm getting more cocoa than I am.
Wait, what's the scale? Is it a 5?
How many Roberts out of 5
it.
Roberts? How many would you get it? 5 being the greatest amount of Roberts, 1 being a very poor amount of Roberts. How many Roberts? The beer I had, I'd give 3 Roberts, 3.25 maybe.
I give 3.5 for this.
4.5 Roberts over here.
4.5 for Gold Monkey, and you said what? 3 for yours?
3.5 because it was really kind of a letdown. I was expecting more thickness.
Most Roberts are. That's what ladies always say when those Roberts are brought in. They were expecting more thickness.
I like it.
The thickness wasn't there.
It wasn't as full bodied as I was expecting.
The girth just wasn't there.
I'm very full bodied.
Speaking of Roberts, Christian, what'd you bring this evening?
So today I went with a staple, classic, simple Red Hook IPA.
I got that in the fridge. I have one left in the fridge.
Oh, it's a Roberts with a long hammer. You don't see that every day.
I love Red Hook.
So you don't have to worry about this one not getting girthy enough because it's got the reach. And that's what really is important.
Woo!
No, actually, it's one of my favorite IPAs just for the sake that it's cheap, it's delicious, and it's always consistent.
That's right. Because we are cheap, we are delicious, and we are always consistent.
That's really what you want to look for in Roberts.
Well, the best Roberts are. Oh, that's great.
I love the red ale that they do too, but it's $8 a 6-pack, and it's a fantastic IPA in that. So fuck yeah, great.
Red
choice.
Hook's just stable, but you know who makes Red Hook, right? I mean, you know that.
Please tell me.
Oh, they're commercially sold out, absolutely. But you can't
But
hate
it's still,
all
yeah, it's still a good
all the
tasting beer.
sellouts.
I get you.
If you hated all
Yep.
the sellouts, you pretty much cut your drinking palate in half.
Let's put it
That's
this
right,
way.
'cause
I
it-
would take Red Hook over Killian's every day for the red anyway. Just throwing
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
out there.
I don't
all about
recommend
red
that. Yeah, it's all about the red zone, exactly.
Or the danger zone, whatever.
They're one and the same, really.
All right, so we're gonna move on. I just want to touch on this real quickly, just because the Roberts may have a particular opinion. Dane, I don't have a particular opinion on it, but essentially, Funky Buddah. So we're gonna move on to our beer stories here. What's going on in the world of beer? Funky Buddah got bought up by Constellation Brands. What does that mean? Not much. Like we just kind of touched on, large brands will continue to buy smaller breweries. This one just happens to be close to home because where are they out of?
Coral Springs area.
Fort Lauderdale.
Because our homes
Coral
are
Springs.
closer. Is that what you're trying to say?
South Florida.
They're on Coral Springs, North Fort Lauderdale.
North Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so they're actually pretty large for the size that they are. I love the hop gun. I didn't really enjoy the Florida Half Weizen they had, but the Hop Gun IPA
Go
was
ahead, Ryan.
was a great beer. And I still do like their beers. I will buy them. I don't think they were the best brewery in Florida, as they've gotten so much praise and whatnot. But they were good. So Constellation Brands. What is that? Corona?
Yeah, Corona,
Modelo.
Modelo. They're a large liquor brand as well, I'm pretty sure.
Ballast
Yeah.
Point.
Ballast Point. So they do what they do. Yeah, you're right. They're large liquor. They do a lot of other stuff too. That's fine. Whatever. I don't really care. But it like turned the beer industry upside down over the last week because they were all sorts of flustered about Funky Buddah going big streams.
I
And
think
to
it's
be
just
honest-
because there's a huge following for them. I mean, every month, or it feels like every 3 weeks, they're turning out something new. You got a breakfast blend or bacon, whatever. You got the Last Snow that everybody looks forward to, the Last Buffalo in the Park. They've got a nutty brown ale that's really good. I mean, they just have a good rotation of beers, and everybody, has viewed them since 2010 when they started getting more popularity as a really good, down-to-earth craft beer brewery. And anybody that's against craft beer breweries getting bought out, as soon as you sell out, you it's like, you kind of get that thing. But this Constellation, though they're the top third, company, compared to the other two, if you will, it's not as big and as well known, but it's still a sellout in a lot of people's minds. What do you think,
Well,
Robs?
I kind of have an opposite opinion of this, just because from the things I've learned about Funky Buddah in the last month and two, in the business side and the brewing side of things, so it might actually be good for them to have more, because as long as I've been watching them.
What? Say that again.
Can-
Say all
my
of
mic-
that again.
All right, my mic's going out again. Damn it. All right, so pretty much, I think that Constellation buying them out is a good. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
And you're fired.
Fired. All right,
All I heard in that previous transmission was it would probably be good for them to come.
Houston, repeat.
Like,
Houston, we have a
that's
problem.
all I can.
So-
No, of course.
So pretty much is what I was saying was in the last few months they've been losing brewers, and I think that them selling to the Constellation might be a good thing for them, because maybe they might have a better organized management, because they've been turning over breweries nonstop for the last 6 months.
Why have they been turning over brewers, do you think?
I have no idea. They've just been in constant hiring, and there's no way any brewery like that should be constantly hiring.
So
Well,
is there a deeper, I mean, I don't
Well-
want to speculate or conspirize, but is there
Well,
a
think-
deeper process
just-
to this? Yeah, go ahead.
Just think about any corporate structure. If you know that big change is coming, you're gonna get turnover. You can see with every single company that goes through something like this, to an extent of where now there's outside influence in corporate mentality, or who knows how Constellation runs their brands. This is an AB. They AB, as big as they are and as nefarious as we want to make them, they they say, hey, listen, we own you now, but do your own thing and, make the same beer because we don't want to influence that. We're just going to distribute it everywhere. So who knows how Constellation runs it, but that plan didn't happen overnight. So if Christian's saying for the last 6 months, 9 months, a year, they've been losing brewers, it only means this deal was making shape, my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's entirely
that
true.
sense.
Is they could just been restructuring the company that way, which
Sure.
also goes to tell you another thing is if they've restructured the company, then their flavors and profiles and the business itself will change too.
And if the guys that are making the beer change, then the beer will change, right? Essentially, they could.
Absolutely, yeah. That's definitely a possibility.
I'd like to retract my previous statement because maybe, this is not a good thing at all. So
yeah, who knows? Dane, thoughts?
Whatever, man. Make money.
Make that money.
No, but I mean, if you're used to a brand, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, they have a science down. But if you're just gonna chalk people up to like their chunk change or something like that, or not, keep a head brewer on because of one reason or another, or if you feel like you can do it a cheaper, better way, like screw you, Constellation. That's what I say. You won't make money if people don't buy your beer. So that's the bottom line.
I'm with you.
And then he puffs on a cigarette. Like, what were you, like a friggin'?
I'm a realist, man. Like you want to make money and shit, and you want to distribute. But if people take your beer as crap now, or if you change the brewers that were doing specific things, and yeah, it's all down to a science. But if you want to change out the brewer, and you want to, if you change the beer, nobody will buy it, and then it all goes to hell anyway. So make your money while you can. Sure, but it all dies in the end. At that point. We all like good beer, but don't change the profile and don't change the brand. That's all.
All right, and you ash that cigar right on an alien, and then we move on. Go on.
That's right.
Speaking of going on, we are going to move on to our geek news section here. This is geek news. Drink it up, suck it down, take it all in, or send it back.
Shove it up your bung.
Shove it up your bung. Yes. Hashtag shove it up your bung. Shove it up your bung. I love it. Hashtag shove it up your bung.
The bung too far. That's what happened.
Ow, gross,
that's right.
dude.
That's okay. We're in the same
We know.
Those are images I can never get rid of.
I give that saying 5 out of 5 Roberts. I'm just saying. We are moving on to we have 4 stories to cover in less than 30 minutes. So we have to run through this. So we're gonna go quick fire for 2 of these, and we're gonna slow down for the last 2 because these are breaking news. And if nothing else, this particular podcast breaks news. We are trendsetters, not trend followers. Get that fucking right. First off, Movie Pass. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah.
It's $10. Yep. It's the Netflix of movies. You can watch any movie you want from any theater in the world, except you have to sign up for the app to find out what theaters you can go to. But in reality, it's not theaters. They partner with a credit card company to pay one price for movie tickets and hope that you, Richards, don't go more than once. Flawed business plan? Thoughts?
I mean, it sounds pretty awesome to me.
I think it's very flawed.
They used to charge like $50.
It was $50,
and now it's what, like $9, eight and some change.
Yeah.
So yeah, they ripped that and shut down the website after like 5 minutes. People were buying that shit like crazy.
I don't know what's going to happen. AMC is threatening to take legal action on them because AMC is like, oh, my cheddar is going to disappear if this is what happens. The problem is that they don't partner with movie theaters. They partner with a credit card company so that you get a credit card in 5 to 7 days and you buy your movie tickets online using that credit card, but it's not a credit card tied to you. Essentially, it's tied to this credit card processing company. So every month you get charged $10 per person. So if like me and my wife want to go, it's $10, it's $20 a month, which is fine because we'll spend $20 a month going to a movie one time. But if we go to 2 movies in a month, then we've just bankrupted and doubled the expense to them because the average movie price nationwide is $8.86. So they're going to be losing money real fast. They think they'll make it up from lazy bastards that don't go to the movies.
Well, but so I beg the question: how much money or does AMC or Regal or everybody else out there, movie theater chain, make off of selling tickets versus selling an $8 or $10 bag of popcorn or something like that? Because it's not about food. Right. So it's not about the cost of the ticket price, at least not for me. Like I'll spend $12.50, but if it's a 3-day movie, I better fucking be able to keep my 3D glasses.
But they're still losing their seat costs because every time they show that movie, they're having to pay residuals each time that movie's shown.
I get that, but I'm saying that if AMC is really that worried, they don't make that much money off of people buying movie tickets anyway. They make their money and they're their popcorn and butter, if you will, off of people buying popcorn, butter, and Skittles, and all those other things inside the movie theater, which they jack up the price, no different than if you're going to a sports event or a concert or something like that. That's where they're making their money. So what they really need to be focused on, and I had a little bit of a different opinion when I read the article, but what they should really be focused on is more people going to the movies and not wanting to necessarily pay the price for admission, but getting them to focus more on getting people in. Foot traffic will generate sales. AMC, Regal, those two companies that we know of here in Tampa, like they're the bigger ones. They now have craft beer bars, and I think AMC even sells liquor at their location near us, the AMC 24. But get people in the door, and then you can charge them more because they didn't spend as much on the ticket. So now they have more money to spend inside, which is where you're charging them anyway. So that's my opinion.
I think everybody has ideas, but just to set the stage on what Ryan just said, I think that's a fine perspective what you're saying. But the bigger problem is if you as the regular consumer think that $10 is what you should pay for a movie ticket, and you go to the movie theater and they have them for $15, you're gonna be pissed off and be like, no, I'll pay $9.95 and go see your fucking movie. That's why I think the movie theaters are more pissed off than anything else, because they don't have to back down the value on their ticket price. Go ahead, we got spit round. 5 more minutes on this topic and we're moving.
I agree with Ryan.
Good job, Dane.
And go.
Dane's like, I'm a little anxiety. I don't like this. I wasn't trying to threaten you, Dane. I'm just saying.
You better pick a fucking side.
Selfishly, I hope this works. Like, I hope this is a thing that we can do. Netflix, did a very cool thing, and they put fucking Blockbuster out of business by saying $10 a month, bitch, you get whatever you want, right? And look at them now. Like they've never been doing as well as they are right now. Until
oh God,
Segway King, Disney decides to pull out of movies, all their movies out of Netflix, and launch their own streaming service in 2019. Oh, son of a bitch!
Well, I gotta go against that, because remember when HBO or Showtime, one of those movie channels, pulled out from their contract with Netflix? We thought,
sure,
no, that's gonna be the end, and no, they still came back.
Yeah, but do you remember that that HBO doesn't have HBO Land or The Lion King or Jungle Book or Aladdin or anything else that you enjoyed as a child?
Oh no, I'm sure all the stoners out there instantly being like, well, there goes all my Netflix shows.
Rogue One.
Yeah, Disney, Marvel.
All the stoners out there are going,
do not crush my dreams, because
they're getting ready. Like, okay, yeah, we'll drop it for you there. Just kidding.
Yeah,
really, all the stoners
for our new streaming service.
I think we're all forgetting that all the stoners have just forgot about what we were thinking about. So like, you literally have no argument here. They're all like, what? Like, what do you mean Waffle House isn't open right now? Like, yeah, no, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, whatever thing you wanted to say to all the stoners,
I think
it's gone.
So I think this has an even bigger footprint than just like digital streaming, because if I saw this happening, right, with Disney and now Netflix and yeah, of course, HBO Go and Showtime or whatever the hell other apps there are. I mean, if I was the cable company or the local news station, I'd be real scared right now, because what happens now is Disney pulls out of Netflix. So now you've got Netflix, you've got Disney, you've got cable TV, which if you don't have Netflix, you have Disney. If you don't have Disney, you have Netflix. But most people are going to have them both. Just like if you raise your hand in a crowded room or a bus station, how many people have Amazon Prime? Right now, how many people have Amazon Prime? Raise your hand of the 5 of us. Every single one of us.
I'm bootlegging it from someone else, so.
Yeah, that's okay though. You still have access to it. What I'm saying is like consumers are not afraid to pay for a service that they want to use, right? So like I'm not afraid of Netflix, because Netflix for the last 4 years has been stepping up their game with their original content. I will never ditch Netflix because they're kicking ass at what they're doing. I will have to have the Disney aspect, because I need my Star Wars, I need my Marvel, I want to see the Defenders, I want to see these shows. I need the Disney piece, and they have plenty of content to sustain that and to sustain my interest and my attention for this long. So I don't see any problem with that. Problem coming to the cable company and to the local news station.
Screwed.
Yeah, they're
Why
screwed.
would you bother? Why would you pay for cable $100 a month when you just have to worry about commercials and everything else now is on demand.
We live in a fantastic time, boys. Like it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next few years.
So
But
Donnie,
those are my thoughts.
I was kind of fixated on what Disney is investing into this. I think a little bit further down in the article, it's something like was it $1 billion or $1.5 billion or something like that?
1.6 pretty much.
So my thought process is right now, there's two ways that people are watching Disney, and I can account for this. Right now, my children watch Disney through the Disney app on Roku or even on their website, and we sign in through a cable provider to watch that. Then also on Netflix, as it is right now, there's a plethora of Disney movies and featured films. So there's access there right now where people are already watching Disney shows and Disney movies. They've already got a funnel coming in. If they pull the movies, here's my thought. If they pull the movies off of Netflix, they lose one avenue of people watching videos and also generating revenue. But they're investing $1.5 billion into getting something done in 2019 where they're going to be showing all of these videos and things like that through a streaming service, which they already have access through Netflix. So I'm trying to figure out if they're spending $1.5 billion, what's their motivation? Do they feel like they're going to make that money up? Like, go ahead.
I see
you see where I'm going with this?
That. Yeah. My idea that you're saying is that they're trying to become independent and make their own giant production, like how Netflix has become its own production studio. It seems to me like, Marvel and Disney being the fact they bought up all these other production companies and all these other markets. They're trying to just put themselves individual. So it's going to really take a long time for them to really settle themselves into the market for sure.
Yeah, and there's people that
you motherfucker!
No, I mean, you can think about it.
We are our own company. We can make anything we want to, you son of a bitch.
I mean,
I get
Disney
that.
too.
I don't know who you think Disney is, but Disney has their hands full of their own shit. They can throw their own shit at you till the cows come fucking home. And you will watch it, you goddamn Richard. You will watch it.
You
will pay for it. Yep.
Why not have a third way of doing it? Like right now,
because we don't want to give up our fucking mouse money to Netflix, you douchebag.
It's just greed.
Simple as that. Do you know what Disney is?
Oh, it is, man. It's
I get it, but those people out there that may or may not already know they can watch the same stuff, like they're gonna still keep paying for Netflix, and they're still gonna accidentally watch a movie on Netflix, and Disney will make money that way. Why not have it as a third avenue? Why pull it completely? That's my thought process.
Because they want it in-house. They're pulling it completely because they want it in-house.
That's why they show the videos in vaults and they
that's why they
come out with
ABC
special
and
editions
all the
every
other
year.
Networks is because they want to control it, man.
I get it.
Technically,
I totally
it would
get
be
it.
in mouse. It would be in mouse.
In the mouse. In the mouse. Thank you.
I mean,
in mouse.
Did that come out? Oh, so many came out.
That was great. But keep it as a third avenue. The more money you have coming in, revenue stream, the more revenue streams you create, the better off they'll be. That's my thought.
They don't care about the multiple revenue streams. They want one revenue stream that's in their house that they control, that they can charge you as much as they want to. Trust me, just like their Disney passes, it'll start out at $10 a month. 5-10 years from now, dude, it'll be $25 a month.
I totally get it. I saw an article today.
Until we can bootleg it, then it'll start dropping down.
Well, and I saw an article today and I wish I would have saved it or sent it to you guys. They've got a Broadway play coming out for Frozen where some of the tickets are like $10,000. So I totally get it. Like, I mean, it's a money maker. People are gonna pay that kind of money to go see Frozen on whatever. But that's just.
I'm optimistic that Netflix will bounce back with a full. Other than that, or they're going to go bankrupt because Netflix has been bleeding.
They're not
going
to go bankrupt because they lose Disney.
They've been bleeding money because all their contracts keep pulling out right as they're like a year in, and all the contracts pull out after a year.
But they're making solid contact. I'm telling you what they're doing. They're killing it in the millennial market right now because millennials like us are all cutting the cord and going to straight Netflix and just like downloading shit because it's working and it's good. It's good shows. They've got we were watching the Jason Bateman show. It's called Ozark. It's really good. And I had no idea that dude was capable of doing a show like this, but it's very good. It's a very good show. I highly suggest it. It's only one season in, but every show they keep producing is getting put on for another season. So I think Netflix will replace cable TV. The Disney thing will fulfill that need that you want for the Disney movies and for if you got kids, if you don't have kids, if you like the Star Wars, if you like Marvel, it will keep that need going. You don't need cable, so we'll cut that out. And this is what you'll do. You'll have 6 different subscription services that you have. It still equates to your goddamn cable bill. That's just how it'll work.
Yeah, at my house, it's literally we have HBO Now and we have Netflix, and that's it. And we only have HBO Now because
HBO Go signs in with your normal cable provider. HBO Now you have to pay for.
Thank you, Ryan. That was a very insightful little. In any event,
do you watch Game of Thrones?
I'm only paying for it because of Game of Thrones.
That's all we watch. We only watch. God.
Wait, you watch Game of Thrones?
God.
Yeah, we're on season 4, and don't fuck it up for me.
Oh, God damn it, season 4. Just don't go on Twitter. You'll be fine.
I understand that there are floppy wieners everywhere, but do not fuck this up for me.
Not recently. The ween factor is way down in the last few seasons. Pun, if you want to take it that way.
Well, that's really disappointing for Laos.
Wieners, I get it.
All right, goddamn, we got 2 more articles. Anything else in this, guys? Are you good?
Floppy.
I hope it's working for him, but I think it's gonna be a fail.
You think it's gonna go? You think it's gonna go south?
Look, Netflix will be fine. Disney will be fine. We'll all be fine.
Except for your local 6 o'clock news channel. It's like, is there anybody out there still? Knock, knock.
I don't watch the news anyway, so I'm good.
Be Karen from Klystron 9000 billion. And she's gonna be like, is anyone still watching this? Like, can you please just?
They're just motorboating each other, just hoping for a ratings bump.
I think that is the only reason that Bay News 9 is successful is because every time I go to that website, it's just I type in weather on the 9s and it pops right up in Google. That's it.
Well, hey, you can't fuck with Klystron 9 because after we all cut the cable on all the cable stuff, I will still go to Klystron 9 because it's the most accurate weather in the Bay. You got
Agreed.
No, you
every 9 minutes there's an update.
That's right. All right, we're moving on. God damn it. And speaking of updates every 9 minutes, so you know what hasn't happened in a long time is the solar eclipse. Segway King. Solar eclipse is happening on Monday. In between 1:17 and 4:19 p.m. So essentially, what's going to happen across if you imagine a band coming from maybe Washington State down to South Carolina. If you can draw a tight line on that is where the solar eclipse will be happening in a large radius there across Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and North and South Carolina. Essentially, at South Carolina at 2:48 p.m., there will be lunar shadow over the not entire state, but a good section of it. And us here in Tampa, Florida, can actually enjoy it as well. It's going to be a very unique event. It hasn't happened. And I don't know if you guys have been catching up with this. 75 years? Laos? I mean, you probably know more about it than I do. Laosman?
Absolutely need to have shade level 14 goggles to watch this eclipse. But yes, it is something that doesn't come around.
75. I think it was 75 years. 19. Yes, the last. Okay. So the last one was 1979.
No, that was the last time that an eclipse actually hit each coast of America. So there are more eclipses. You don't actually need to.
You can't see real well in here, though. That's the thing.
No,
wait till Monday, you turd.
Yeah, you're really killing the buzz on this one. If you miss this one, just a FYI, if you miss this one right now, there will be another eclipse actually in 2023.
What if you can't make it in 2023 though?
Well, then you got bigger problems.
We have some very old listeners.
I don't like going to the movies just for that reason because I know it's going to come out on video. So maybe I'll just wait till 2023 and just call it a day.
I mean, on the flip side, though, let's talk about this on a realism.
What is Donnie looking at?
I'm looking at light bulbs because you can't. Yeah, you can't even see it in the light bulbs unless you have these glasses on. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Laos.
No. Well, what I was going to say is on the light side, this is actually a national holiday for my people, aka the Gingers. This is the one day that we can go out in the sun for about 10 to 15 minutes and just really enjoy the place. Live it up. Just Just
So this is
do
the
our
ginger
thing.
suntan day.
So this is
Well,
when
of
vampires
course.
come out of their coffins and eat everybody for 15 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
We don't live in coffins. I mean, I want to make that well known.
So you're a vampire.
I mean, am I a vampire? That's not for me to decide. I mean, I didn't actually make that choice. It's not a lifestyle choice. Like, what do you want from me?
I see what Donnie's doing there. He's
Roberts is talking, but he's not actually talking.
You know, you can also use it as a pinhole in a box too. You know that, right?
Okay, here's what I want you to do, Chris Roberts. Make your pinhole box and stare through your pinhole at the sun. Do it for like 25 minutes.
So if you were to be in a box and make a pinhole to where you can see the light, somebody could slide a quarter over top, and that would be the same as the Eclipse.
No, don't do that. Do not do that. The pinhole decision is that you're supposed to hold it and look at the ground so you can see the sun move through the pinhole. You don't look through the pinhole. You'll blind yourself. Don't do that. You're supposed to use it reverse-wise, like you look away from the solar eclipse. That's what a pinhole does. You don't look through the pinhole, Ryan.
Donnie.
You will absolutely go blind. No, there's other people listening to this, Louse. We have to do this service here.
Don't look through the pinhole.
Let them dream.
Ryan,
No.
Look through whatever pinhole you ever wanted to, and you let us know how that works out, man.
No, we're gonna get emails that people are going blind.
We believe in you and all of our listeners. Whoever pokes a pinhole through the cardboard box. First of all, if you're in a cardboard box, get the fuck out of there, man. What are you doing?
Ryan's like, I'm totally protected from the sun now. Because I'm looking through a business card with a pencil mark in it. No, you will still go blind. You'll go blind so much faster.
Don't do that.
I mean,
don't do that.
You'll have that on these big jobs. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
All right, we're moving on. Okay, if you live in Tampa Bay, 2:49 p.m. Go outside. If you have these special glasses, which you can't get on Amazon or anywhere else because they're sold out, because people are insane and they all bought them at the same time. Don't worry about it. Don't do the pinhole. Don't look through a business card. You can't do it. Look at the ground and just imagine it being very dark, even though it'll only be about 80% covered. It won't be totally dark, but it'll be very interesting. So go out, try and enjoy it, but do not look at it, okay? 2:49 Monday morning afternoon.
To all of our listeners out there, make sure to mention us when you post all of your photos onto Twitter.
Don't mention us if you're talking to your doctor, your optometrist.
Or looking through a peephole in a cardboard box. Don't do that. We did not give you that advice.
Yes.
Also, fun fact, before I actually located to actually handle this, I can see you're talking to that big old donger of a microphone. No,
I can't see that.
Wearing about 4 to 5 pairs of sunglasses, and I was like, this should probably work.
No.
It's not gonna work. Please don't do that.
Is it really gonna be that blinding? Like,
it's staring exactly at the sun. You're staring directly at the sun. Yes,
but the moon is blocking the sun, so
no, but the rays around
shade.
it are actually more intense. So you're actually looking at a harsher sun.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Are you trying to tell me to raise up? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Just don't do it.
I'm saying maybe
Like,
just
look at it for a second. It'll be fun.
No, don't look at it for any seconds.
No, oh my God.
Just
do the whole,
briefly,
like, hand in your face.
like,
All right, Dane, will you please take us into our next article here? Because I can't stand this anymore. They've got it.
He's coming. He's coming hard. He's coming fast. They're talking about it. It's going to be awesome. He's going to enter the danger zone, or as Ryan likes to call, the red zone.
Who's playing Ben
Ginger
Kenobi?
Zone?
Ewan McGregor will most likely play Ben Kenobi. What Dane is saying in the danger zone is that essentially there has been talk now where the director has been, or the filmmaker Stephen Daldry is actually in talks for the epic pick, which would feature the Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's been played by both Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor. Given the timeline, it would probably be Ewan McGregor. What place in the Star Wars timeline that would be is up to us to decide. Literally, they asked us. We're going to contribute our opinions and get back to them. I have 3 choices here, boys. We can vote on them. Number 1, if you guys want to vote on these real quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, number 1. his first chronological experience would be between 1999, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, around that period, which I don't think is likely because that'd be before, Anakin, which is fine because he'd be a young man, but I don't think Ewan McGregor is fit for. The Clone Wars era, which I think there's a lot of stories in there, but then you've got Anakin Skywalker too, which you have to kind of battle with or at least keep in the story. Now, that whiny little bastard is probably also still in physical shape to do it, to handle the role because we saw him at Star Wars Celebration. He looked fine. He looked the same. Hates sand, which is fine. Or you have the 2 decades after Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and before the original Star Wars movie from 1977. Personally, well, I'll tell you guys, 1, 2, or 3. You guys think Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, or Revenge of the Sith, post Revenge of the Sith? What are we voting on?
Can I see it as a patty one?
Tres.
Is that out of the question?
So Christian, you say the Phantom Menace would be fun. Ryan, you say 3. Dane, what do you say?
Phantom Menace.
You say Phantom Menace, okay. And Lousman, you say Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
Okay, see, I'm with Ryan. I think, first off, I think that the Revenge of the Sith to the original Star Wars A New Hope is a good idea, only because they've already explored it in Star Wars Rebels, and there's storyline there, and he's got place there, and it would fit the actor Ewan McGregor perfectly. But that's my opinion. I mean, what do you guys? What do you guys argue?
It'll also tie in. It'll tie in what he did after. 3 basically. It'll tie in everything, and they could probably finish right up until when Luke meets him.
Well, and it fits his age, and so I definitely see that as like how it works. But I mean, I could see it either side because there's a gap in story on both realms. So that's why I'm always more towards this the Clone Wars, just because I just like that storyline a little bit better.
I think there's more action there, but they already fucked it once.
That's true.
So what if
for improvement?
What if there's enough to make 2 or 3 Obi-Wan movies, or are they trying? I would assume it'd be a trilogy that would follow literally Ewan McGregor's life over the next 10 years.
Like a Wolverine origin story.
Yeah. But is there really enough to go off of? Is there enough there to make something happen, to make people follow it, or is it just because it's Star Wars and ties into that universe that?
No, I think Obi-Wan is the strongest storyline of any character in the Star Wars universe. He's the most intertwined of all the characters. He's the only character that's been intertwined in everything.
Him and C-3PO.
Yeah, exactly. C-3PO too.
Yeah.
Okay, I will give you one for instance, Ryan. It's called The Clone Wars, and he's literally everywhere. Like the Clone Wars, the series, the animated series, he is all over the place, and he's always got that super sharp beard. He's dialing it in. Super awesome.
Again, just for the beard alone, that character's worth it.
Yeah, watch that beard.
I mean, he was sick, and he was definitely a star in that one. But I think this is huge news, and this is what broke 3 hours ago, which I thought was very cool.
What did we vote on before? Do you remember, Donnie?
I think we said similar stuff. I think we said similar stuff because we were both. I think all of us were for something that connected 3 to 4.
Or we voted on what was going to come first, Obi-Wan or like a
bounty hunter. Yeah. And I think we knew it was Han Solo, but we gave 4 Roberts that it would be Ben Kenobi last. So you heard it first on this podcast. What is Ben Kenobi movie like? That's what we asked first, and we'll always have that.
It's 4 Roberts.
Yeah, 4 Roberts. It's
literally 4 Roberts, a fictitious numerical system that we gave it. Cool.
That we just established today.
Look back at that.
we did.
Coming to Netflix, 2022.
Well, so
4 Roberts.
So this is the last piece. I think that we're all excited for this. I don't know. It seems like we're all excited for this. I think this is awesome. I was waiting for an Obi-Wan movie. I think we all knew it was coming, but I think that was exciting. What I want to leave with this, tying it back to a previous story though. Imagine this. So they did Rogue One. Han Solo is the other standalone. And then they do a Kenobi series, which I think they've got 3 movies worth of content to do. In the meantime, the Disney, Netflix, whatever they want to call it, D-flix, D-pix, I don't care what it is. But they launch it They launch it in 2019 with Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, Lion King live action, and also a live action Netflix style series of Star Wars, right? Now that could be the Star Wars Underground that was talked about for a while. That could be Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Like that would be sick, because that is a universe that could exist and set up some lore that every one of these movies could play off of without taking part of any of them, and they could have 1,000 years to play with. So I really think that.
Can we have a storyline of just Yoda in his early days? Because
we
I've always been curious about that.
We could, but that's rumored to be another standalone movie. So if we get Han Solo, we get Kenobi, we could get bounty hunters, we could get Boba Fett, or we could get Yoda. We don't know any of that, but this is a storyline that could exist separately that could explore different pieces of that. So as that Disney streaming service comes along, there is a Star Wars live action or TV series that's coming, and I guarantee that will happen with that. So again, this is the One Brave podcast that asks, what is Star Wars real life? That's what's happening.
Deal.
Yeah.
I would like to venture a guess. So it'd kind of be like Road Rules versus Road Rules. Or what was it?
Real world.
Real world. Yeah.
Road Rules Challenge.
Thank you. But it's Star Wars themed. I mean, I think that'd be great. I mean, Yoda's out there going like, God, super not drunk I did. And like, I mean, just
so they're all like
all
the characters from Star Wars are put into one house. And what would happen?
Oh,
if
yeah.
all of them were put Sith,
But they are not affiliated with that Jersey Shore.
Well, no, think about it though. It's gotta be Sith versus Jedi, but they're all like.
But what if Sith and Jedi start hooking up with each other?
It's a trap.
That'd be the great. No, it's a trap, clearly. But also, there's got to be a lot of like, put the seat down. He did not. Like, like a lot of weird. Like,
think of the one-on-one talk they have with the camera.
Yeah. That's where this. I mean, that's my 2 cents on this.
All right. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and end things after this very long and excruciating podcast. Where can the good people find you guys, Christian, Mr. Sir Man? Where can they find you?
The Traveling Pint on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Solid, Mr. Lost Man. Where can the good people find you?
Oh, you can probably find me at Mr. Lost Man. That was like a correction.
All right.
And he's on Google, folks. That's where he's at.
Mr. Dane, where can the good people find you?
Find me on Twitter at DTMert.
And Mr. Ryan, last but not least.
Yes, Twitter and Instagram at BroodBoy813.
Can you make a subsidiary where it's just like at Rude Boy, where it's just like all the rude comments that you want to post? Like, I would really appreciate that.
I could totally post rude comments because I probably get like that anyway.
you get a good and a bad. Like, you just literally get to say whatever you want on either one. I mean, that's pretty foolproof.
I use Facebook for that.
Let's get that off the ground.
Let's get that off the ground. We had a couple of hashtags that I still don't even remember what they were at this point. But you can always get a hold of us and me here on the show at Brewmasters.Club on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you want to. Participate in the show. Just use the hashtag Brewmasters.Club/cast. Or you can actually, you know what we'd really appreciate to do if you're enjoying the show, if you're having a good time with us. We've done 48 episodes now. I believe this is our 48th. So please, if you're listening, go on iTunes, leave us a review. Just tell us. If you don't like us, that's fine. If you say, hey, man, it's way too long, you don't like it, keep it to yourself. But if you do like it, please leave a review. That'd be great. That's all we can do is to get more reviews and to get into people's feeds there. So we appreciate you listening. We thank you all very much. And as we say every night on every podcast that we make, Christian Roberts.
I hate when you throw me into this. Cheers, guys. Drink up.
Cheers, guys. Drink up. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the official podcast of the Brewmasters Club, craft brews and geek news. Grab a beer with the guys and be sure to subscribe to catch additional content. Add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. Chat with the guys on Twitter at Brewmasters.Club and Facebook and online at www.brewmasters.club. Cheers!